So again, this speaks to the retention. So if you define your user personas, your customers right, acquiring them and retaining them becomes easier because your product is such a fit to them. Because if it's a user eccentrically designed, then it will make sure that it does address their pain points, and they will stay loyal to it. So when you understand your customers' difficulties or the pain points they have to deal with, you can actually design something that solves their problems. And again, reminding you guys, not all problems are worth resolving in a commercial sense. So you still have to look at the viability aspect of it. When you find out that your customers really want, and you have now defined it, this is what they want, you will keep your product relevant and competitiveness. So many years ago, I designed an entrepreneurial leadership program for the Allen Groves Foundation. It was built on a mindset. So what we experience daily, it's what inform the products that we more likely will bring as a solution. So you will then have to cross-reference your own experiences. If you build your product based on your personal experience, customers as well, other people other than you, to see if they are going through the same pain points as you. So let's look at now customers research. How do you get to know who is going to be your customer? So a lot of people say, well, which one comes first? You know, you build something and then you take it to the markets and see who will react to it, or you go to the markets and ask questions and then build from there. So I mean, either approach, it's fine. Either approach is fine as long as you're collecting quantitative data as well as qualitative data. So you basically, what it means here in terms of quantitative data, it's a measurable data obtained from any source that has a reputation. We've talked about Statista as well. There are many other data houses where you can collect this data and use it to analyze and identify different patterns and relationship in the markets. To be able to understand who your users exactly are. Or you could go with qualitative data, which is just gathering information from focus groups, social medias, interview surveys. You could post something on your Facebook or Instagram and see the reaction from your friends or people that are on social media. The more it goes viral, the more likely chances that you're addressing pain points from different users that more likely will buy your product. So that's another way to collect qualitative data. Go on Facebook, Twitter, post something and see how it flies. If people react to it, engage with it, that could be an indication of you collecting qualitative data that is so important in understanding who your users are. Some of your users are actually on your social media accounts. You just need to talk to them a bit and see how they react. So that is important to make sure that your customers' identification, it's supported by data collected from quantitative and qualitative, so that we know how many users are there for your product, how many people are experiencing the same pain points that you're addressing with your solution. It's important because if it's only 10 in South Africa, then you don't need a whole app to address problems facing 10 people. I mean, unless 10 people, each one of them will be paying you R1 billion to use your service, then that's a different story. So that is important because that speaks to the user base. You know, how much of this can you scale this to a proper business? Because if the users of your product are very few, the chances of your business surviving and doing very well are very slim. So let's look at an example of qualitative data there. It talks about the most common payments method of online shoppers in South Africa. It shows you the data there. So on the screen, you'll see two charts from Statista. We are going to see how we can use these charts to build a picture of how South African access internet and pay for goods they buy online. So this is the purchase online. So what does that data tells you about South Africa when it comes to internet accessibility? Does it tell you that if you start a business to sell something on the internet, you will have the markets? The answer is yes, it does tell you that there is a market. But if this was the opposite, it will tell you otherwise. But what is so important is that if for mobile app, basically you're looking at the market consumers. So in South Africa as well, if one feed in qualitative data, one can bring in patterns such as crime, and then you will see that any app that probably does support individuals and protect individuals from crime, it's more likely will do very well because of the number of sort of criminal activities in South Africa. So let's look at the next slide. So let's look at the user personas. I'm going to unmute and so ask you to unmute and share with us who are your user persona for your app, if you've got that already. So please unmute yourself and go ahead. I'm happy to read your charts as well, looking at who are your user personas, if there's more than one, and how do you know that they are your user personas? Anyone willing to share the experience of building a user persona? Obviously, looking at demographics as well as goals. So we're looking at the age, location, income, education, as well as purpose, utility as part of the goals. Any user persona? Do you know who's going to use your product?
Yeah. Hi everyone.
Yep.
So try and answer a few of those. In terms of the goals and utilities, I'm still not sure, but we are building a. So the app we have is it's called Zaba Manager. It's basically for uh, organizing or tracking your personal expenses. So our users, or the people we aim to target is basically young professionals. So the ones who've just left varsities, who have a little bit of income, but they're not sure what to do with the money. So in terms of age, there's gonna be like from 20, 30. I'm not sure what time do people leave their school, varsity. I think like 25 to like 30.
Yeah, it's
And
usually
then
23, 25 if they're doing honors.
yeah, and then location, South Africans for now, but we do wanna do like Africa, especially like Zimbabwe. And then income, basically as long as you're earning something, then you're good to go. Education doesn't really matter. And then in terms of the goals and utilities, I'm not sure what that one is asking for.
So, yeah, so I will get into that now. Just a quick question around or comment around education. So, if you speak of education and it doesn't matter, then it means your content must be easily accessible
Mm,
for people, your audience. So it means the language you use must be accessible as well, because you've got different um, level or different
okay, I'll
users.
say above metric.
Okay, all right. All right, then that's important to make sure that education does impact how you're going to lay down your your content. So Silas says corporate executives in the northern. Let me have a look. In the northern suburb of Johannesburg, LSM 7 and 10. Oh, those are big shots. That brings and worries about roadblocks as we are designated driver service. All right, I see what you mean. So your price also speak to LSM 7 and 10. So for those that are probably hearing the LSM for the first time, we started 1. So that's your living standard measurements of living standard measurements. And LSM1 is basically the starting point. Yeah, it does happen in business that they can target LSM1 all the way to LSM7. Like in our case, we target LSM1 to 3, and then 4 to 7. So thank you for sharing that. Let's have a look at the screen there. You've got an example of user personas there. You've got Wusi, Tabo, and Level. So let's look at Wusi. Wusi is a student, 20 years old, university student with limited data and an older smart cell phone. He's looking for educational app that works offline. Why? Because he's very concerned about the cost of data. Yes, he might have probably internet at about that. So something that works offline will work very well for him if it's an educational app. So let's look at persona 2. That's Tavo. Tavo owns a small business. He's a small business owner. He's 35 years old, entrepreneur in Johannesburg. He's looking for reliable business tools to manage operations, but may have limited time for onboarding. So there you're dealing with different behavior issue there, or some challenges there is that Tabo is looking for something, but to be able to find time to onboard him, it's very difficult, which means that for your app must catch Tabo's attention straight away. Whereas user persona 3, that's Lewu, young professional, 28. She's really up to technology stuff, digital savvy, as well as she lives in Cape Town. Open to use finance and productivity app that adds value to our busy lifestyle. So she's got more busy lifestyle, whereas Tabo has more of busy with running a business. She's looking for finance and productivity app because she's a young professional, whereas Wusi is a student. So if you've got these personas, then you will then have to build value propositions around them. Your value proposition must speak to these personas for them to be able to use your product. So let's get deeper into how to analyze the pain points. That will definitely help you understand how to build the user personas. So in this case, the user personas that we shared, there's an issue around data, cost, and connectivity. So this is a common issue in South Africa, right? So Wusi, our student, is sensitive to the price of mobile data. This can be particularly true, especially in rural areas where connectivity can also be inconsistent. So if your app is targeting people across South Africa in rural areas as well, then you will then have to be considerate of how connectivity will look like. So whereas the second issue there is around design or pain points around design and user experience. Tabo doesn't have time to learn a new app because he's busy running his business. Whereas Level on the other side, she's very busy with lifestyle. So she's a young professional. They need product that gets them up and running as quick as possible, Tabo and Level. So they're looking for something that is quick to sign, quick to understand. So therefore, if your product has too many features and you're targeting Level and Tabo right in the beginning, you may not get them through. And if you're signing on onboarding process, it's 5 or 20 minutes, requires supporting document, they're not going to sign up. They want something very quick. And probably to be able to understand Level and Tabo, you need to look at how signing up for new platforms has evolved over time. You can actually sign on anything using your email address these days. Is to cater for this kind of stuff, to say if people spend hours and hours signing on an app, that's not really a good way of getting the users onboarded. So let's look at reliability as well as security. Both Level and Tabo want a product that can be reliable and also protect their data as well, being a business person, as well as Level being a young professional. So all these user personas, as an example, they are so important to understand where your value proposition sits with them. So to make sure there's no mismatch, you need to really understand your user personas. Yes, Ravu, go ahead. Your hand is up.
Thank you, Mashudu, and afternoon, everyone. Apologies for cutting in.
No worries.
Cool. I wanted to ask, so does it mean before one even starts designing the app, we already have ours developed? It's been 2 years or so. Do we need to first look at designing the personas that are going to use the app, or do we design the app first and then base the strategy of taking the app out there on these personas? Thanks.
Well, that's a really good question. Thanks. As I said earlier on, it's a chicken and egg issue, isn't it? My suggestion will be, since you've got the app already and it's in the market, is to look at value propositions of the app. What makes your app different from all other apps? All right. Once you've got that value proposition, try to understand what type of user personas will be more interested in what you're offering. So instead of starting with the personas that you want to target, you start with defining your value proposition more clearly. And once you've done that, then you could say, okay, this value proposition speaks to Thabo. This value proposition speaks to Label. So that is what I will suggest based on where you are. So there's no one way or another. It's just based on where you are and the data that you have and what you could be able to build in terms of value propositions. Because that is what uniqueness is. And value proposition could also sit outside of the app itself. If I can extend this conversation, value proposition could be how quick you deliver the items if people are buying online. So that could be a value proposition. A value proposition of one pizza company was that your pizza will be delivered hot. If it's cold, you return it back and get a new one. So that's value proposition. It's what makes them different from other competitors. So just be alert that value proposition sometimes doesn't necessarily have to sit within the app itself. It could be the environment that you've created to make the app more competitive in a unique way compared to your competitors. That becomes part of unique value proposition. So let's look at addressing the pain points. If one looks at Thabo, Thabo Label, and Vusi, one will see that there are different pain points that one will have to look at it. So let's look at Vusi. It's concerned about data cost and connectivity. So you could offer a light version of the app that is optimized for lower data usage. You could also probably do offline access of key features to ensure that Vusi still use the app without incurring the extra costs. So Vusi is a student, if I'm not mistaken. Then Thabo, who is a businessman, you could design the app interface that is super catchy as well as simple to onboard. As I've mentioned an example of email addresses or quick cell phone number, and then you're onboarded. So many actually apps work in that way. You do your KYC after you've been onboarded. When you want to start using the app now, they ask you to complete the KYC, but you get onboarded first, and you could complete your KYC whenever you're ready if you want to use the app. So you could introduce something like that. Whereas for Label, she wants a high performance and reliability. So you could offer regular updates on performance in terms of finance issues, in terms of lifestyle as well. Try to find the relationship between the two. So that's how you serve or service the user personas that you have on your app. So let's look at gathering feedback. So obviously, the process of defining your user persona, it's not just once off. They change. Remember, they grow, they become older. Some of them, they change lifestyle. Some of them go through life-changing events. And instead of preferring a pink color, they go to dark colors. So these things happen because you're dealing with humans, all right? So you must always have gather feedbacks within your app. If your app doesn't have a feedback loops, then you're sleeping on a massive opportunity of getting feedback from the users themselves. And that feedback can also not just only redefine the user persona, but redefine some of the features that you have on your app, or opportunities that you might not be seeing that the user are seeing as well. So run user surveys as well. You can run notifications when people see those notifications on your app. It's a quick survey to get the feedback from the users. That will help you understand where users are, because having user personas well defined and well related or aligned with the value proposition, it's just not once-off thing. It's every day. It's a live thing. You must continuously monitor that, engage with that, and app store reviews, as well as user surveys, feedback, does help you to be able to achieve that. So that's important. Make sure that you stay on top of your game. So let's look at the case study of using feedback effectively. So let's look at what happens when a developer responds to user feedback that identifies specific needs. Let's look at the two examples where software developers responded to a need they found when analyzing the user feedback. So these two examples, Facebook Lite, Google Lite. So feedback loops are important. So I believe, although probably I'm being too funny about it, is that I believe Uber Eats was created by feedback from the users. I'll tell you why. I used to send, right in the beginning when Uber just came, there was just only Uber Black. So because I was so busy, I will call Uber like I am at a restaurant when I'm not there, but I'll call the restaurant and tell them to put the food inside the Uber. And the actual Uber will go fetch Mashudu, but Mashudu is not there. But they will simply tell the Uber driver, yes, the food for Mashudu, you're dropping it at his home. And I think because so many people probably have the same experience where they are lazy to go to a restaurant to collect the food or to go buy food, drive there, they send an Uber to go collect their food. And Uber gather all that data. And within just a very short space, Uber introduced Uber Eats, which in my opinion, one of the biggest business so far in the last 10, 15 years. So feedback does help you get you somewhere. Look at Facebook Lite, look at Google Lite as well. It's based on the feedback in terms of the cost of the data that people are had to experience, or which really was a bigger blocker. Because it's not because they don't want to be on Facebook. It's not because they don't want to sign up for Facebook and connect with their loved ones, but the cost of signing for Facebook was the blocker. So imagine Facebook now is competing with the cost of data in South Africa, and that's why they introduced Facebook Lite. You could access certain features without have to have data or spend more money. So that is so important on how you should act on user feedback. So your app must have a feedback sections across it. Even when you introduce a new feature, try to get the review for it to get some feedback on how they experience it as well. So that is important. So obviously we use an example of Uber Eats there as a quick win. And also it was probably, in my opinion, the best roadmap in scaling Uber from just transporting people to transporting food as well. So we have done with this first part of this session in terms of how to build a user persona that really speaks or well aligned with your value propositions. Just to sum up, if you already have a product, mobile app, so look at your mobile app, look at the value propositions within the app itself. Outside of the app, define this value proposition. Value proposition is something that makes your product so unique and different to a manner that it does really stand out and it differentiates itself from the rest of the competitors. So once you have that, try to see how that it aligns to your user personas. And you might find that some of your user personas probably needs an update, because some of those people probably have long moved from where they are. Because remember, the market shifts every day. Things happen, changes. So user personas must always be reviewed and updated all the time. So the next part of this session is to develop a compelling, unique value proposition. So let's say you're looking at your app now, you're trying to figure out exactly what is so unique about this, what's so compelling here. So it's just another app. So maybe we need to work on how to create that compelling value proposition. So you need to look at the core benefits. All right. So what you need to do is to look at, you map all the features of the app that you have. You look at exactly how did these features relate to the pain in which you have identified in your users. And then you could then be able to say, well, for instance, working offline, there's no any competitor who's doing that. I'm going to do it. All right. There's a good example of, I think it's called, it's a chat app, same as WhatsApp in South Africa. They use reverse billing, so you don't have to have data to get into it, but there's a marketplace there. I've forgotten the name of the company. So that is, again, they look at people that don't have data to get on WhatsApp. They said, how are we going to be unique from WhatsApp and Telegram? Is to introduce a reverse billing on our app, so you can communicate with your loved ones without having to have an app, as long as you've got a smart cell phone. So that's working offline. That's when you map out, the Moyo app. You're right, Lebogang. Thank you very much. Moyo app does that. So it is addressing the issue of cost of data in South Africa in relation to other competitors. That's the unique value proposition they have, all right? Because you need data to get on WhatsApp. So that is so important, mapping those features to the needs. So Lebogang says, we are their competitors. I'm happy to, if you can unmute Lebogang, if it's okay. We are the competitor. We always have reverse billing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So thank you very much. It's Lebogang from Softex Technology. So we also have an app called SoftMeet. So basically how we knew more is that they wanted to, a year back, they wanted to acquire us, and then we couldn't go through that transition. So we also have a reverse billing technology, but what they have done is that they have transitioned a lot from giving a chat platform. They are mostly on giving that reverse billing, because I think what I've noted is that the technology itself, they own that IP, because I have a direct contract with MTN, but Moya app is actually my support guys to implement all of those things. So whether you go to Cell C or Vodacom or whatever, you always find them to be the one who are supporting that reverse billing technology. So we have that also, because we did we had to, after this, remember we started the session and then this is the second one. After this, we had to rewrite the entire app from the ground, because the issue was that we needed to understand who actually are we trying to solve the problem here. So then we started doing what we call a digital, a data-free digital service communication, where you access certain services without data. So as I'm speaking to you right now, we have what we call an e-moderation, the entire of the Northwest department. So all grade 12 are going to use our platform for e-moderation without data. So the strategy is that we are on the strategy of user acquisition at the moment. So everything, the app is already monetized and everything, but specifically for them, we are giving it to them for free, but you can charge into the platform, you can do everything. So we've got all those things there where you can do gifting. I mean, I think we're the first guys when the app is coming out this week in a group where you can allow gifting, where people can gift you, similar to what TikTok has. We also have that implemented in the group chat on our site. And you're able to check your wallets and all, you're able to withdraw your money in real time. So that's basically what we've been busy with so far. And yes, in terms of this, we've managed to look at what are the real problems. And then we did a bit of research. We know that at least about 30 million are still struggling with connectivity. And that is the market that we are trying to penetrate. We're not saying we're going to take, but step by step, I think we should be able to do it. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Lebogang, for sharing this amazing story. Thank you very much, and all the best. Absolutely, the differentiator, unique value proposition sits. There's obviously, you will have to focus on the core functionality of the product itself. and identify this unique value proposition, you also have to look at other things that are really are the highlighter of differentiator. I can give you an example. For instance, localization can be a differentiator, especially in South Africa. If your app comes in different multiple South African languages, then definitely can be a differentiator. And I've seen it now more likely, more on the websites such as corporate websites for the banks. They also now introduce audio that you could choose in your own language to listen to the website content in your own language. So again, everybody's talking about inclusion. There's financial inclusion. There's also other forms of inclusion. So affordable pricing as well. So that is so important, where you give what we call a freemium model, where you allow certain basic features to be accessible for free version. And then if you want to, or you limit the number of certain usage, like the electronic signatures, they give you, I think, 5 per month. And if you want more, you just buy the bulk of that. So again, that's another way in which you could make your product value proposition so unique to what is already happening in the market. So for instance, our payment gateway that we have is so unique because it's got a fixed price, which is 3 Rand to 10 Rand per transaction, up to 10 Rand. Whereas the other payment gateway is percentage based. So it could be such a very small thing that you have in your product that is such a very unique value proposition that you're not paying attention to, or you're taking it for granted. So what you need to do is to look at all these features you have, some of them inside your product, some of them outside of the product, to be able to really pick the right unique value proposition. What is outside of your product, I've mentioned already, could be the delivery. So we deliver within 1 day. We deliver within 2 hours. If we deliver, you don't like it, you return it, we give you 100% of your money. All of those things has nothing to do with the actual product itself, but they have to do with something that happens outside, which is the environment in which you create to be able to distribute that product can actually on its own see it as a unique value proposition that you're offering to the customer. Why? Because unique value proposition must address the pain points that you've identified in your customers, and therefore that speaks to the user persona. So for instance, Takealot takes takes a day or two to deliver in remote areas. If you want to compete with Takealot, you then have to make sure that people within the remote area gets their goods as quick as possible than Takealot. That on its own could sit as a unique value proposition that could actually drive different type of users to you from Takealot and give you obviously competitive advantage. So communicate real values. It's very important. Let me just go back to that. So you need to communicate the values that actually anyone can see and feel it and experience it. And you need to communicate clearly what that value it is. For instance, if we deliver your pizza cold, we'll take it back and give you a free one, one more free pizza that is hot. So again, that's, it's confident, you're showing it to your customers. Another value proposition could simply be, we resolve your customer's inquiry within 10 minutes or 20 minutes. But it's important that if you're going to use value proposition that sits outside the product, because you created an environment for it, you must make sure you achieve them. Because if you don't, then you will lose the customer's trust on overall your entire product over something that has nothing to do with the product. Just because you said that we'll attend your customers' inquiries within 10 minutes and you don't, people will end up losing interest in your product, even if the product end up doing what they want, just because of the environment you have created end up having an impact on overall acquiring a customer. So now let's look at unique value proposition examples. You can see the example 1 and 2. The first example speaks about choose the correct connect. Sorry, what's that? Sorry. My eyes went blank there. So the last exercise brings us to the next step in developing a unique value proposition, or what we call it, unique value proposition statement. So let's first talk about what UVP, unique value proposition statement, is. So it's basically, it takes all the unique core values of everything into one. So it's a statement. So if you've got 10 different unique value propositions, so the statement basically brings that into one statement. So the question is, what do you notice about the language in the examples used? So this example 1 and example 2. Any difference that you notice between example 1 and 2? So 1 says that Comma Connect is a productivity app that empowers South African students to learn, plan, and connect anytime, even with the limited data access. So this speaks to the student who's concerned about the cost of data. Whereas example 2, BeesLite, is a simple, secure finance app that helps small businesses owner in South Africa to manage cash flow on the app, offering local language support and offline functionalities. So these two value proposition really speaks to summarizing all the core features that are unique in the product, as well as any other external features that makes the value proposition unique, which is important. So it is important that you come up with a unique value proposition statement. So just probably to be clear, so you will identify all the unique value proposition. There could be so many, right? There could be probably 10 or 15 or even more. The more the better, obviously, because it means that you're more unique than any other competitors. But then you will then have to come with a statement that encompasses all those different unique value proposition into one. So that's what we're talking about when we say unique value proposition statement. And those two examples are example of those two statements. What makes a strong unique value proposition statement? So you have to use the language that is more user-centric. So if your user personas are people within the fintech space and finances, then you will use those technical language and all those words that they use that are happening at the moment. So if your user personas are people that are into the motor industry or sport, you're also going to use all the language that relates to them as well, so that it relates to them. So you need to be specific. So you should not have claims that are too broad. Be specific. Use an example. So for instance, the example we looked at before, the examples, they were more specific because it talks about this, someone who's more data sensitive. The other one doesn't have time, wants something that is quicker, or work offline as well. So you need to also then, in your unique value proposition statement, be specific in terms of exactly who are you targeting or speaking to by identifying some of those pain points that you have discovered from your customers. It needs to be relatable. It needs to be more accessible tone. They must relate to it. If your user personas in terms of LSM, of education or LSM, they're at 1 and 2, then you have to make sure that your English is accessible if you're going to use English, or therefore probably makes sense to use different languages as well, to make sure that you cater for all your user personas in terms of where they are, because if they can't read and understand your unique value proposition, then they won't be able to act on it. So let's look at these case studies that I believe it's successful in terms of how they identify unique value proposition and how they put a statement around it. So let's look at Snapchat. So they say the faster way to share a moment. It's such a very short unique value proposition statement, which is so specific and simple. It's very user-centric. This statement focuses on what users want. All right, they want fast and quick way of sharing a moment, snapshot, all right? And the word says it all. It's a very strong, unique value proposition statement. It doesn't need any further explanation than what it is. It's also aligned with the name of the product itself as well. So let's go to the next one, the Google Play. Google Pay. So make secure payments anytime, anywhere. Secure payments anytime, anywhere. So that is so important. Our unique value proposition is powering the last mile banking rail. Why? Because we use USSD and cell phone number as a transactional method within the banking system, not a bank account. So that reduces the cost, right? So your unique value proposition must well be aligned with your overall product or app that you've built. It should not be something that you envy or one. It seems cool. It's not about being cool here. It's about your product, what it does, and then you reduce that into a unique value proposition statement. Make secure payments anytime, anywhere. I feel safe with that if I want to use Google Pay. Uber, go anywhere, get anything, all right? When it started, there was no get anything. It was just go anywhere, anytime you want, all right? So now, because they do Uber delivery, which Uber Eats fits under delivery. So that's why they've changed it to get anything, all right? So which means you could send Uber to go fetch parcels. Now you can send Uber to go fetch food for you as Uber Eats. You could ask Uber to come fetch you to go anywhere you want. So you see how unique and how specific crafted these unique value propositions are. They almost kind of like, you almost can tell that they are so user eccentric than just someone thinking this is a cool thing to have. Yes, Ratboto, go ahead.
Thank you, Mashudu. From the first formula that we saw in the previous slide, it seemed to require us to add a bit more information, like the target audience and that part. This one seemed more like a tagline than based on that formula. We're short of the category of the app name in that UVP. What is the difference between the two? And who are we aiming either of them at? Thanks.
No worries. There's no difference with the tagline. Because tagline, it's basically needs to speak to your unique value proposition. So it is the same. Some of them are very long, others are very shorter. I prefer shorter unique value proposition statement. So as I said, you've got all this unique value proposition that you need to define that your app does provide, right? You could list all of them. There could be 20. But remember, you're not going to publish 20 of this unique value proposition on an advertisement. There's no space for it. Otherwise, people will have to spend the whole day, set 2 hours to read your advertisement. So then you need to consolidate all these different unique value proposition into a value proposition statement. So whether it's, you call it a tagline or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's the punchline that you give into the customers, users to look at it and say, wow, these guys are speaking to me, all right? So yes, it is in some respect a punchline, if we use that word, because it's a quick way in which you tell your users exactly who you are and how unique you are to all other competitors. Does that answer your question? All right.
Thanks, I'm answered. Thanks.
So let's go back to where we were at, the unique value proposition. We shared these 3 examples, case studies. The shorter your unique value proposition statement is, the easier to work with it across marketing and advertising channels, because then you don't need to have a whole paragraph that people have to read. So that's why from the unique value proposition that you've listed, you condense that into a statement. So let's look at this activity. So So this activity is let's try to create a unique value proposition for your mobile app. So maybe let's do this. So focus on the audience primary needs that you're targeting, or what's their appeal? What is their main appeal of your app to them? So also be clear exactly what unique value propositions are, and test the statement with your partner, with whoever around you in this case. So you can just drop what you think will be the best unique value proposition for your product. I'm happy to read in the chat box. Even if you've got something already that probably is not well aligned with this exercise, I'm happy to read it and see. So space paddle, say play paddle, is a paddle anywhere, anytime. Yeah, that's really good. That's is that so? Are your competitors not doing that? Or you feel this summarize all the other unique value proposition? Any other unique value propositions? There's no any other multiplayer paddle games for. That's great. So I think the key there is multiplayer. I will suggest multiplayer does incorporated in your value propositions statement, because you're saying there are no other multiplayer. If there are no other multiplayer becomes the key there. It's such a key unique value proposition on its own. So it should somehow features in your unique value proposition statement, because it's such a differentiator. So I will assume there are only single player out there, not multiplayer. So that on its own, it's a huge value proposition. So let's look at co-creators, a streaming platform, create, connect. What does that co stand for? Connect co. Is that I'm reading that correctly?
Yes, no, I was just describing what co-creators is. It's a
Okay.
streaming platform, the first collaborative platform in South Africa where there's UGC, people can upload content, live stream, more or less. I won't name the others, but more or less what platforms are doing now, the ability to live stream and connect and collaborate, comment on each other's content. So our tagline, so to say, is create, connect, co. Co is to collaborate, to connect, to, yeah. So it's not a word that exists, but we are creating that word to, yeah, connect people. Thanks.
So you said, yeah, thank you for that explanation. So you're saying that there's no collaborating streaming platform in South Africa. Is that correct? I heard you correct.
Original South African platform, yes, there is no. Yeah, we have SABC Plus, which is more passive. We have Free Vision and others that people watch, but they are not participating in the content creation on the platform.
So I will suggest the word co, because the word create, it's combined with co. So you will say co-create, which is collaborate and create. That will make a lot of sense than connect co. I will also suggest probably you write collaborate in full, because if that's a unique value proposition, no one is doing it as a collaborative model. And that's where your value proposition sits. So your value proposition could be just really one word that you take for granted, and it differentiates you altogether. Let's look at, thanks, Raboto. So consider emphasizing more on collaborative, since it sounds like it's the uniqueness of what others are not doing in South Africa. So there is one from Fred Cook Studios, says Taxi ranked. It's a game that helps South African gamers to kill their boredom by causing chaos as a taxi driver. in Mzansi and wrecking against their friends. So I will assume this you get inside a taxi in the game and race because all the traffic and issues. The value proposition is a bit too long. As a statement, sorry, it's a bit too long. I will ask you to probably find a way of summarizing it into a statement. So you're taking all these different unique value proposition and then find one statement that speaks across all of them, especially emphasizing on what is so unique out of all of that. So there is Bailey, which is a smart way to grocery shop. So maybe Wiser Everyday, if you could just unmute and tell me us exactly what how unique Bailey is, if it's possible to unmute. Okay, you said I see I need to work on my unique value proposition. Okay, no, I will skip that. No, that's fine. So let's go back to the this activity again to give a feedback here. Is that obviously focus on your audience. It must be user centric. It must something that is so unique that others are not doing. It must be the glue of that statement, all right? So collaborator, if there's no such streaming that does collaborating, if there's no game or play or anything that's multiplayer, but others a single player, you must that it should be. So for instance, empowering the last mile banking rail. You know what is the key for that? Is the last mile banking rail. It's the key word, because by just searching that on the internet, it tells you that you are actually taking the banking rail to the communities that are poorly and expensively served. So in other words, well, by looking at that, you can unpack that where are the ATMs in South Africa? You know, you have to take a taxi to go withdraw money. If I send 100 Rand to the village now, 20 Rand is taken by money markets. They will have to go into a taxi, that's 60 Rand, 32 and 30 back. They will only collect 20 Rand out of 100 Rand. So when you talk about the last mile banking rail, you're saying that we're bringing the banking rail to your doorstep using the spaza shops to do cash in and cash out. So I'm just giving that as an example that it must be user eccentric, and it must use the popular words that are happening already in the markets that people could easily relate to as well. You must be clear, and it must be you must test it with the different users to see where you are with it. So the last part of these sessions before the lunch time is to refine your unique value proposition. And I think one of the entrepreneurs here said, well, I need to rework on my UVP. Yes, absolutely. All the time we should. But there's a process in which you have to follow to be able to refine your unique value proposition. You got to identify the key competitors. What is their unique value proposition looks like? You know, you must look at common features. You know, so you compare these features. What are the common features with your competitors? What are the unique features from your side that the competitors don't have? What are the weaknesses or the gaps in competitors' offering that you are offering? So that's how you then put together a unique value proposition. So it's finding a gap. So remember, we always say we are here to fill in the gap and take advantage of that gap, because the gap, it means your business, its market fit if there are users there. So compare your unique value proposition as well as your unique value proposition statements with your competitors to see what they are doing, that it's not addressing the pain gains, so the pain points in the markets. And that's why you believe your business exists. So how do you identify the gaps and opportunities? You look at overall you analyze the competitors' value proposition. You look at your value propositions and you see how different they are, and then obviously You take advantage of the uniqueness, because that's why it's called a unique value proposition. It's so unique that nobody's doing it the way you're doing it. You stand out in the crowd. Everybody's wearing white, black, and you come wearing red, basically. And he said, "Look, I'm a red color. All others are wearing black colors," as an example. So let's look at another example. So localization can also be a unique value proposition. You could look at cultural relevant design and content. That on its own could be, and I've seen this being adopted a lot by a lot of advertisers, where in their content, they will include some languages or certain greetings, such as how's it? It's more like how's it? It's not language specific greeting. It's just how South African greet, as an example. And then as a result of that, for instance, I know Nando's, it's not really only an app, but their advertisement as well. They've localized them. How? Because they piggyback on the events that are happening in South Africa to sell their product to the customers. Obviously, with Nando's, it's a little bit too sensitive. You got to play your games very carefully there. Another way to do it is just how you protect data on your app, and you emphasize that we protect data for all our users. You could also look at payment options. Now you can be able to pay cash. When Uber got a competition in South Africa, they started opening up on other options of payment, because before you can only pay through your check account or a credit card. And when they start seeing other e-hailing coming in, they start opening up that to get people to pay. You can order Uber and then you pay cash. And in the beginning, that wasn't an option at all. So again, it's another way of creating value proposition to compete against your competitors, because other competitors were still scared because they were new in the markets. They're trying to copy exactly what Uber was doing. You pay through card, etc. They said, well, we're opening it up now. You could pay through cash. You can also have a wallet now, where someone send you money to your wallet, and then you just draw down your wallet on your Uber account. So again, that's another unique value proposition you can introduce. But again, you must always test and validate your unique value proposition on an ongoing basis. This speaks to the feedback loops that I talked about, because remember, your unique value proposition and unique value proposition statements must speak to your user personas. They don't stay the same. They change, they grow, they become older, they start families, they lose interest in certain things. So you can't just say, oh, these are our unique value proposition stays as it is. The question now is that, can you have more than one unique value proposition statement? The answer is yes. You could have one statement, more than one statement at the same time, if you feel that your unique value proposition are best summarized through 2 or 3 or 4 different value proposition statements. And you've seen it, companies having different punchlines, advertisement across different channels as well, depending exactly on where they're advertising and who they're trying to increase as their user persona. If they feel like they want to increase one group of segments than other, then they will tailor their unique value proposition even more to target and address the pain points that the user personas are experiencing in the markets. So let's look at feedback. I've spoken about gathering feedbacks. I just want to speak more about the A/B testing, because A/B testing is important across everything you're doing. We're going to talk about A/B testing when we look at Google Ads campaign and how to access this platform, because it's so important to test everything. You could run A/B testing for your unique value proposition statements and see what the users say, the feedback they give it to you, and you could use that feedback to refine and fine-tune your unique value proposition. If I can probably have 5 more minutes just to wrap up this session, we're almost there. And in terms of analyzing your feedback, you look for the pattern. You're looking for the pattern to identify areas of improvement. So let's give an example. For instance, if users don't fully understand certain features or benefits, you might probably try to tailor your unique value proposition statement to that particular feature or benefit. Why? Because you believe that if users can get to understand the actual uniqueness of that feature, it could drive their customers or users retention, satisfaction, as well drive the revenue. Instead of pulling down that feature, probably what is needed is to tailor your unique value proposition statement, particularly to that feature on its own, like it's available offline. But there are many other features in your app, but you just focus, my app is available offline, fully functional offline. But your app probably, it's a fintech, it's a psychometric test, Gala or university, or edu tech, it's something else. But that unique value proposition, it's become your punchline, because that's what you want to drive more. Because why? Because if people could realize they can work offline with this app, it will increase your downloads and also increase your user base, because now they don't have to have internet connectivity to be able to access the features on your app. So again, it's a balancing act that you need to apply. So this activity, again, because of time, you could take home activity, because it's all about testing the UVP. So when you have time, keep on drafting this unique value proposition. And I will suggest that you use Gemini AI on Google to refine some of this unique value proposition. It can also direct you on how to refine, on how to craft your unique value proposition. It could make some suggestions whether you want to have more than one, or you want to have one or two or three unique value propositions. So some of this stuff, you don't need to really crack your head over refining or crafting. You could simply just take your entire case study of your features of your app and ask Gemini AI to create a compelling, unique value proposition for yourself, and how to measure whether that is working over a period of time, whether it's 6 months or 3 months. And that's really all from my side. So any questions? I'm happy to take questions, and if there's no questions, we can have a lunch and come back. Irene, at what time? Irene, you there? I think you will be muted. So let me have a look at the timetable here. So we are now at 6 minutes past 1. If we can come back here at 1:30, is that okay? And we'll then have one session